4 speakers who are going to speak for only 15 minutes each. I will advise that each and every one write down any questions that you might have and the specific speaker that you want to answer that particular question, and let's get started. Please, sir, Mr. Emmanuel Asigri, you have the floor.
Forum this morning, which comes with the heading Impact Africa Youth Leadership Summit 2018, hosted by 2 forward-looking organizations, the AfriWeek International Organization and Settle Leadership International. It is refreshing to see your organizations coming together to help youth of today identify, harness, and develop their leadership potentials in order to lay a solid foundation for the advancement of the African continent. I'm also proud to carry with me the goodwill message from the Ministry of Youth and Sports, and to extend to you the message of the Minister for Youth and Sports, Mr. Isaac Isiama. The National Youth Authority is the legally mandated state agency that coordinates and facilitates youth development in Ghana. As mandated by the Act establishing the authority, Act 939, seek to develop a dynamic and disciplined youth imbued with a spirit of nationalism and a sense of public service and morality. We further undertake projects towards developing the creative potential of the youth, developing a dynamic and disciplined youth imbued with a spirit of nationalism, patriotism, a sense of prosperity, civic responsibility, as well as ensure the effective participation of youth in the development of our country. Government alone cannot meet the needs of young people. These needs will be met only if we act boldly by understanding that the challenges we face are a shared, and our failure to meet them will hurt us all in the long run. Ladies and gentlemen, in conclusion, we are all too familiar with the prevailing myth about leadership when it comes to young Ghanaians. In this entrepreneurial age, there is a perception that saying yes more often will open up opportunities like we have never imagined. But it is also important to give our young leaders permission to say no when they need to do so. I wish to admonish young people gathered here that we are shaped by people, circumstances, experiences, and our surroundings. Leadership is a skill, not a disposition. You too can become a leader if you choose to become one. It might be easier for some than others, but leadership is for everyone. Permit me to end with a call on all of us gathered here to join the campaign by the National Youth Authority and GH1 Television to end the abuse of tramadol amongst young people. Many Ghanaians are being destroyed by this canker. Let's make sure we have a tramadol abuse-free Ghana within the youth bracket. On this note, once again, thank you for the opportunity, and may God bless us all.
Leadership International and AfriWeek. He has been my friend for over 30 years. He is a youth leader, an entrepreneur, and a Pan-Africanist, but AfriWIC is his brainchild, and let's give it up for him. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Kojo Ewua Frimpong. Good morning, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. You are all welcome to Impact Africa Youth Leadership Summit 2018. I know most of you have been wondering, what is AfriWIC? AfriWIC simply means an African with a changed mentality. So we believe that we have to change. If we can change what we do, we first have to change what we learn, which would impact what we think. And then it will impact our perception. And then finally, it will impact what we do. So we believe in changing the mindset of people if we really want progress for Africa. So AfriWIC is an acronym meaning an African with a changed mentality. And we believe that we are in a dispensation where this generation is ready to change their perception of life and their perception of leadership in order to pick up the mantle of leadership to rule over resources, not over people, the way it is supposed to. SERTO means service to humanity. It's, should I say, a sister wing of AfriWIC International Organization. So with that explanation, I will zoom straight into my topic for the day. I'm supposed to speak on understanding the purpose of leadership. Before we talk about the purpose of leadership, we first need to look at the definition for leadership. And just before we talk about the definition, I just want to talk about what leadership is not, because that has been the misconception. That is the myth we want to break. We want to break the misconception of leadership in order for us to be able to learn the right or the true understanding of leadership. So please, whatever definition you have on leadership, I want you to put it aside for a minute. Leadership is not charisma. You can have all the charisma if you don't cultivate the resources you have. If you don't cultivate your gift, your charisma would lead you to a disastrous end. Leadership is not power. Power, I define power as force, just sheer force. And leadership is not authority. Neither the last two, authority and influence, I'll explain. Authority means legal force or legitimate force. Most of the time we confuse leadership to be authority and influence. But then influence and authority happens to be products of leadership. So they are not the definition for leadership, but they are the product of leadership. As we go along, you would understand when I hit the definition of leadership, you understand why influence and authority becomes a product of leadership. Authority is different from power. Let's get that straight. So, what is leadership? Leadership, in simple terms, is a gift for service. Leadership is a gift for service. And each and every individual born on earth is born for leadership. You have a gift. Every single individual born on earth has a gift. That is why we have over 7 billion people in this world. And we have over 7 billion fingerprints. No two fingerprints are alike. It means that you are uniquely gifted to contribute to the development of the world. And if it is a gift, then we have to understand that a gift is not worked for. It is not something you work for. How many of you work for a gift? You don't work for a gift. It's free. So it is given. In other words, if you have the gift, it was given to you by nature. You didn't work for it. Rulership of man by man. Because everybody has the gift. And my question is, what makes you think you are special to rule over me? Or what makes me think that I'm special to rule over you? So it's a gift. And if it's a gift, then it was given to not just you. It was given to everybody. And if it's a gift, then it was given by nature. We did not work for it. So if you call yourself a leader and you don't contribute to the progress of a community, then I'm sorry. You have to relook at your leadership qualities again.
Our next speaker is going to be Dr. Lloyd Aduamoah, and he is the director of the Center for Asian Studies of the University of Ghana, Legon. Please, can you do me the honor of inviting him to the podium? Thank you.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First, to the chief servant of AfroWeek, Nana Sebonzu, to Mr. Asigri, who is the chief executive of the National Youth Authority, invited guests, youth, media. I am happy to be here. And I think that this particular event is timely, given the particular point in history that we find ourselves. But I'll get personal a bit, because all the distinguished guests on the podium are people I've known for the last 30 years, thereabouts. We're all very young people like yourselves, broke, no education, not basic education really, after A-level, O-level at the time. But we had a lot of passion. We loved books. So it was this love of books, this passion to serve, that brought us together. And the places we used to meet was the George Padmore Library for African Research. How many of you know the place? George Padmore Library. Very good. And I'm talking about 25 years ago, thereabouts. The other place we used to meet was the Du Bois Center. How many of you know that? Very good. So this is how we met, and then the bonds of friendship between us more or less grew around these questions that today we have appeared to talk to you about. Now, my point is simply that we were once youth like yourself, right? But we clearly were concerned about our society and where that society was going and what we could do. Even though we were broke, we had no big cars, we were unknown, we had not read too much, but we wanted to make a difference. My duty today is straightforward. I'll just build on what my brothers, my colleagues, my friends, talked about not long ago. My brief is to talk about history and the connections between history and leadership. Well, history matters for leadership. especially for leadership in Africa. Because too often we consider ourselves inferior, of no value, second rate, not original, copycats. We hate our skin, we hate our names, we hate our countries. So today, we find hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of young people, especially trying to cross the Sahara. Not just the Sahara, but also the Mediterranean to try to go to Europe. Because in their view, that is where the good life is. Right? So, the question of leadership and the way we look at ourselves and history are connected. But of course, when you go into history, those who came before us did not allow themselves to be broken. They decided that they could make a difference. Right? And that difference was couched or was buried in service. Right? So service as leadership to make a difference where they found themselves. Now, my point is that when you go into our history, there are many examples of leaders who truly served. And that service was not, as my colleague rightly stated, about themselves, about becoming big men and women, about having big cars, big fat accounts. It was about making a difference, transforming the conditions in which Africa found itself. So at the time, colonialism, slavery, and the rest of them. Now, what are the problems we face today? We depend on donors, so we are beggars. When some people appear with some gifts, we take them and we smile. And we take photographs. But the point is not that taking gifts is not good. It is when it becomes a mode of life. The basis for your very existence. The basis for doing the things you should do for yourselves. Right? So dependence on donors, problems with our economy, of course bad leadership. And here we are with a world that is also transforming. I run the Center for Asian Studies. The Asians we started with, you've heard this over and over again. But of course, in the world in which you find yourself now as young people, China has become dominant. Asia has become important. What does that mean for us in Africa? What does that mean for you young people? The world that you are going to find yourself in. Right? Now, the point really is that your service will become important in terms of where Africa would place itself, where Ghana would place herself. Right? And this is exactly what those who came before us, in responding to their questions, attempted to more or less make a difference. And the examples are in history. Right? So, history matters, and we are called upon more or less to take a cue from that. But of course, to make a difference does not mean that there will be no odds, no struggles, no pain, no loss of self-belief, and all of that. Right? From the very little space you find yourself, and then scaling up to the national level, continental level, and then the human level. You have potholes in our neighborhoods. There's rubbish in our... We look like we've lost our minds. It's as if we are paralyzed. People make noise anywhere, anyhow. And in the communities, nobody says, what's happening? What's going on? We just simply say, government, or it's somebody else's business. But you young people must wake up. Wake up from your slumber and understand that this country is yours. And that you can make a difference. Right? So there'll be strains. Sometimes you think the adults we don't listen to you. You think that this society is completely of no worth. You are discouraged. Yes. We face the same thing too in your time. Of course, there was no democracy. You know, the era of Jerry Rawlings and all of that. Those were hard times. We grew up in really hard times. You go to shops, there's nothing. Empty shelves. We used to queue for Kenkey that was uncooked. There was no internet. There was no cell phone. There was no Facebook. You have Facebook. You have the internet. What are you waiting for? Of course, a lot of you are doing things, but my point is to inspire you more. Not to see yourselves, as Martin Luther King said, do not make anyone make you feel as if you do not count. Always maintain a sense of dignity and respect. And take the opportunities around you. They will not be 100%, but take them. And as you take them, remember that it's your community, service, transformation. Right? So, I'll leave you with these little nuggets of thought. But I'll end with this point.
Thank you, sir. Our next speaker, the people from Kaneshie have already interacted with him. He's got the manners and the, what do they even call it? The juice, right? He's got the juice to deal with the youth. He is no other person than Dr. Kojo Asante, and he is the Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development. Please give it up for him.
Good morning. Is it still good morning? Oh, it's afternoon already. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you, MC. Nana Osei Bonsu Jr., Executive Director of AfriWeek. My good friend, Lloyd, always provoking. You saw how quiet the place was. People were just eating up every sentence. I hope they don't just eat and go and sleep. Ladies and gentlemen, our Honorable CEO from the National Youth Authority, Mr. Abugri, is it? Asigri, yes, that's right. All right, it's a real pleasure to be here, and thanks AfriWeek for inviting me today to the Youth Leadership Summit 2018. Now, this is a difficult subject for me. At one level, you will say that we are suggesting that as Africans, we are not happy with our current Africa, so we want a new one. So maybe I can talk about that subject matter, or you could say that there is a current narrative of a new Africa that probably needs to be reconstructed. I will not attempt to break down all of these possible meanings because we don't have time. What I want to do today is to share with you how a few African countries have transformed their economies and societies for the benefit of the majority of their citizens, and what lessons we can learn from their pursuits. Then I want to talk about why it is time for citizens to lead their leaders. I think it's time for citizens to lead their leaders. What do you think? Okay. We will see. In essence, what I'm hoping to do is that we might be able, at the end of what I present to you, to begin to think about the reconstruction of this new Africa by looking at what some African countries are already doing. So it is not a pie in the sky somewhere. It's possible that it's just close by, but we are not looking closely. And we are thinking that, oh, maybe it is only in China that it's happening. But we need to look closer at home. So the topic, I have reconstructed my topic, is the reconstruction of a new Africa. It is time for citizens to lead their leaders. Ladies and gentlemen, in 1966, Botswana, a small landlocked country in southern Africa, and one of the poorest countries in the world at the time, became independent. 84% of the landmass of Botswana is desert. If you know about the Kalahari Desert, that's where Botswana is. At the time, Botswana was surrounded by a hostile white supremacist regimes in apartheid South Africa, Southwest Africa, now known as Namibia, and Rhodesia, Zimbabwe, now called Zimbabwe. At independence, there were only 12 kilometers of paved road. Only 22 Botswanans had graduated from university. There were only 100 people who had graduated from secondary school. And they were mostly children of chiefs who attended African schools in nearby South Africa. Fast forward to the mid-2000s, and Botswana, supported by diamond exports, has maintained one of the highest rates of per capita growth in the world in 35 years. It is the second largest exporter of diamonds behind Russia and accounts for 25% of world diamond production. It grew consistently at an average rate of 7.7% from 1965 to 1998. It is no mean feat. 63.4% of its population have access to improved sanitation facilities. 96.2% have access to safe drinking water. And remember, they are in the desert. It is one of the least corrupt countries in Africa, has an efficient bureaucracy, and a public service based on meritocracy. Now, this is not to say that Botswana does not have problems. It still has one of the highest prevalence rates of HIV in the world. 25% of its population have HIV and AIDS. But at the same time, it has one of the most advanced treatment programs in Africa. And medicine is available to its population. It has structural unemployment of about 20%, mostly because the diamond mines are not labor intensive. However, it has a strong welfare program for the unemployed. So why did Botswana take this path when many African countries endowed with natural resources, Congo, Sierra Leone, Chad, Niger, ended up in prolonged conflict, civil strife, poverty, and misery? I say this is a story about leadership. The story is told of the first president of an independent Botswana who took some selfless decisions that created a path to economic transformation in Botswana. Cerise Sikama was the chief of the Bagwatu, the largest tribe of the Trana tribes. And the Trana tribes in Botswana constitute 75% of the population. In 1956, he was exiled by the British and forced to give up his chieftaincy for marrying a white woman while studying in Britain. The British action was instigated by white supremacist apartheid South Africa, infuriated by the idea of interracial marriage. Serisi Khama returned to Botswana to found the Botswana Democratic Party. In 1967, as president, one of his first actions was to pass the Mines and Minerals Act, vesting subsoil mineral rights in the national government. The interesting thing about this action was that the diamonds were discovered in Bagwatu land, where Serisi Khama was still chief. That single decision strengthened the unity of the Tswana and other tribes and set the tone for the selfless leadership that has come to characterize the Botswana leaders, from Kuet Maseri to Festus Mohai, Ian Khama, and so on. And I want to draw your attention to 4 lessons. Selflessness. Leadership is about service to others. And I think the point has been made. Oftentimes at the expense of your own benefit. We have to look around us and ask if that is the kind of leadership we see. We should not look at only politicians when we talk about the absence of selfless leadership. We should look at our churches. We should look at our public service. We should look at our private sector. We should look at our homes. We should look at our schools. How many times have we not heard of student leaders embezzling funds of student associations? How many times have we not heard of student leaders trying to cheat during elections? Leaders have to have a goal. And my second lesson is vision. Leaders have to have a goal they want to pursue. Set their sights on a certain end. We dream and aspire to do many things, but those that are visionary are those that can set lofty targets and set in motion the structures to achieve them. Everybody can dream, but not many dreams come true. They can see far into the future, see things that people would think are not possible, and lead people to achieve them. Kwame Nkrumah inspired many young Ghanaians in the immediate post-independence era to do great things. Establish the Kolobu Teaching Hospital, build a celebrated and respected national football team, and build the largest man-made lake in the world. And you can ask, those people were not 60-year-olds, they were in their 30s. Some of them had just been practicing medicine for the last 5 years. And yet they were able to set up a teaching hospital. So don't think you are too young. If you go to Asia, there's a lot of millionaires and billionaires who are in their 20s. So there is no perfect time for leadership. Kagame set out to build a new nation. He used innovative ideas to overcome incredible odds. For example, he dug deep into traditional methods of justice and reconciliation to address a problem of congested prisons. Can you imagine? After murdering 800,000 people, can you imagine the number of criminals that will be arrested? Almost half of the population were in jail. How are you going to adjudicate all of those cases? He introduced the Gacaca traditional court system that was established to allow for some measure of reconciliation. And if you compare to what he was able to achieve with this, to the UN tribunal that spent millions of dollars and convicted only 21 people. In both Rwanda and Botswana, these leaders have not only talked the vision, but you can see from day to day that they are living the vision. My third lesson, dealing with and recovering from shocks. Leadership is not only about success all the time, but also about failure and about overcoming the odds. It is about struggle, strife, sometimes horror. 800,000 people massacred, mostly Tutsis. Paul Kagame and the RPA could have taken revenge, but we will not be celebrating what he has done in Rwanda today. Rwanda will probably be at war still today if he had taken the path of revenge. He and his colleagues confronted the horrors and steered their country from that painful moment to a more prosperous future. Now, there are still many challenges to deal with in Rwanda, but they have demonstrated they can lead their nation through good times and bad times. My fourth lesson, succession, charting the course and sustaining the agenda. I want to share with you the importance of succession, investing in future leadership so that they can carry on the vision. Visions are by nature long-term, and for many leaders, they may not live to see their visions become a reality. So you need to build the next generation of leaders, nurture and mentor them so that they can carry on the struggle. Kwet Masari, who succeeded Serisi Khama, was Deputy Prime Minister to Khama. Festus Mohai, who was Vice President to Masari, took over as President when Masari retired. Ian Khama, who succeeded Mohai, was Mohai's Vice President. Mentoring and nurturing leaders is not an easy job. It means that you have to be comfortable in your own skin to be able to extend help to others. Many successful leaders and visions and visionaries have been fulfilled because of investment in succession. So those are the lessons from Botswana and Rwanda. These are African countries. They are not in space somewhere. All right? And these countries have been going, Botswana has been going for God knows how many years, decades. And they are still very, very successful. So, how do we construct and reconstruct this new Africa? It is clear we are not doing well on the continent. We have had many, many false dawns. The African Renaissance, if you remember, in the early 2000s, the Obasanjo Abdoulaye Wade, Mbeki Alliance, recently the Africa Rising narrative after the commodity boom in 2010. Now, in all of those periods, yes, we have had growth and we have become more peaceful. But as Botswana and Rwanda has shown, you have to be growing consistently and progressively in all areas for decades in order for you to see transformation. China grew at 10% for 30 years. So when you see China today, it didn't just start. They were there and just they became, important. The second largest economy in the world, or even the first, if you put those arguments. Our impact by how much we contribute to our community. We have to become visionaries. We have to be able to absorb the shocks and invest in the next generation to carry the vision. But if we are to prepare for effective leadership as citizens, we must also do the following. 1, taking an interest in policy issues. We need to take an interest in what is happening around us. I meet people who say that they only listen to BBC because there's too much noise on the Ghanaian airwaves. And then I tell them that when there's flooding close to your home, BBC will not be there to report it. We must care about the issues that concern us and shape us. You need to know what is happening in your community. You can't just wake up and take the next transportation and go wherever. You don't care about your neighbor. You don't care about what is happening in your neighborhood. If there's a fire, you will just walk into it. Because you're on YouTube or Instagram just watching things that are thousands of miles away from you. We need to educate ourselves. We are in a period when the world's knowledge is at the touch of a button. You can sit in Legon and follow the curricula of undergrads at Harvard. So you might not have the money to pay for a Harvard education, but you can have the whole Harvard course and follow it. You might even get some of the books to read. And when you finish, you can award yourself a Harvard degree. You can diagnose your own ailments before you go to the doctor. You go to the doctor and you can try to test him to see whether the knowledge that he's giving you is accurate. Because you already have the apport. All right? Before he speaks, you already know what he's talking about. And this is all at the touch of a button. There is no medical term you cannot understand. Just Google it. And then you can even go to YouTube and see how the surgery is done. So we have no excuse. We can improve the policy debate if we educate ourselves. Please have an informed opinion. Once you form a habit of educating yourself, you can engage leaders and citizens from an informed position. That is what is going to make these debates substantive. It's going to change our world. You don't also just going to contribute because everybody is contributing. At the end, it's a lot of noise. And nobody understands anything or take any lessons from it. Please participate in selecting your leaders. Elections have consequences. Any process for decision making, make sure that if you have an opportunity, you should be involved. The leaders you choose can make your life poorer or richer. And I'm not talking about material things. You can choose leaders and you just become dumber. Because you are being fed wrong information, outdated information. When people are talking about robotics, nanotechnology, and so on and so forth, and you don't even know how to use your mobile phone optimally. So you want leaders who will drive you, who will take you to the next level. So you need to participate in those processes. Hold leaders accountable. We must appreciate that it is our resources that elected and appointed leaders are using for our collective good. So we must care what they use it for. Don't say it's somebody else's problem. Oh, they should hold him accountable. No, it is your resources. It is your resources. Sometimes people forget that when we go and borrow money, it is in our name. And we'll pay for it. They say, oh, they are going to borrow money. And they come, well, we went to borrow this amount of money. Everybody say, hey, look at the money that we gone and borrowed. And they don't think that that is resources. And you don't question, what are we going to use that for? Then we will begin to experience the new Africa, even if our leaders are not ready. Thank you.
Give it up to all our four speakers. We intentionally set 2 hours for questions.
From Radford University College. I have a few questions. My question is question number 1. During the ancient times, we have there's been an architecture of leadership succession, where when a king dies, you know the person to succeed. So my question is, first, in this political era, do we allow one political party to lead us for transformation, taking in consideration Malaysia, Singapore, and China? You could see some leaders are visionary. Bringing it to Africa, we could see Paul Kagame, the transformation he has brought to Rwanda. Bringing it back to Ghana, we've had a lot of leaders. Okay, bringing it back to Ghana, we've had a lot of leaders. For Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, looking at his futuristic visions that he had for Ghana. Now, this political party comes, destroys whatever has been built by the previous government, nullifies every achievement, tells them they are corrupt. And I wonder which party or which group of people are good. So with succession, do we allow one party or do we allow one group of people to lead us with transformations? Or should we keep on changing them with the mentality of having better future for Ghana? And my last question is integrity and political influence. As leaders, as students, I've seen a lot of student elections where they go and bash people. The last time we had an election in Tamale, and you could see bringing up young people who have no idea of what was happening. They tell them when you go and vote for number 5. So as soon as the person is done with number 5, the child is gone. So the people who are coming, we are even more corrupt than people we have tagged to be corrupt. So that's one thing we have also to deal with. And you spoke about integrity, and it's something that you must build. I follow politics a lot, and just recently in the Sujaman district, there was a financial officer who refused to sign for, I think, procurement something, and the man was being told that he will be transferred, and indeed he was transferred. So how do we as youth stand for integrity? How do we build our integrity, even if it costs our lives? Thank you.
My name is John Andrew Richardson. I'm a member of Commonwealth Hall and then a level 400 student. The question I want to actually ask is that oftentimes we've had leadership seminars, how to be a good leader and all that, but I think the missing element is linking it with economic freedom. So how can we connect leadership with economic progression? Because really the powerful countries in the world are economically free. That's why we see them progress. We can talk of Rwanda and elsewhere. So how can we link leadership with our integrity, politics to gaining economic freedom? Thank you.
Take the first, maybe Nana Wold. Yeah.
Hello. Okay. Thank you so much. Excuse me. First of all, I'm not a doctor. Not yet. I probably don't have the... Okay, thank you. All right. The gift and ability. Yes, leadership is a gift. And like I said, you cannot be a leader without a gift. But every individual has a gift. You see, sometimes we demean our gifts because we desire somebody else's gifts. And it happened to me at a point in time. You see, so everybody has a gift. But let me say this. There is a difference between gift and ability. Ability is able to do. So I can learn something to do it. But I cannot do it better than somebody who is gifted to do it. A bird does not struggle to fly because flight is built in the bird. So the bird is gifted to fly. A chicken may learn how to fly. And sometimes they fly a little bit, but you cannot do it better than the bird. So no matter how much you learn to do something, based on ability, yes, you could do it. Everybody here has the ability to sing. Do you believe that? But some are more gifted than others. So what we're saying is, in order for you to be an effective leader, look for your gift because you have one. And like I said, gift is embedded in conception. The moment the semen meets the egg, gift is embedded. Sometimes we kill our gifts. Well, I wouldn't even use the word kill. We hibernate our gifts due to the fact that we covet somebody else's gift. Or society will help you hibernate the gift. Who told you you can do that? You don't have the capacity. You don't have the strength. You don't even have the family background to do that. So everybody has a gift. And yes, leadership, let me drift a little bit. I know the question also borders on, are leaders born or made? They are both. Everybody is born. You were born with a leadership gift, but you have to cultivate that gift and serve it to the world. So yes, gift and service is what leadership is all about. Let me touch a little bit. Somebody made mention of failure, leaders failing. You know, sometimes there is this truth claim which says wisdom is the principal thing, therefore get wisdom. And in all of your getting, get understanding. And most of the time, like we all said, the problem of Africa is not leadership. Leadership is not our problem. It's the misunderstanding of leadership, which is our problem. Failure, most of the time we think when you do something and it's not successful, it means you failed. I'm giving a new definition to failure. Failure is when you don't do something to the end, irrespective of the potholes and the pit holes. The pit holes will come. Those are not failures. Those are part of the process. So when you fall, you rise up, and then you sit back and calculate, what did I do wrong? What can I do better? So that is not failure. It's a pit hole. And leaders are bound to fall in them because leaders take initiative all the time. And sometimes when you take initiative, you don't know what's ahead of you. So you're bound to hit a wall. But then you recalculate and recalibrate and find another alternative. So yes, failure is when you don't do or you don't finish what you started. How many of you know that winning is not you being preferred amongst others or you being the first, but finishing what you start? So failure will come in the sense that there are going to be pitfalls. You're going to fall, but you rise up because when you are inspired, somebody make mention of the vision. You are inspired by the vision, nothing stops you. You will fall 20 times, you rise up 20 times, and you get to your destination. Let me touch on this briefly before I say. Somebody made mention of time and timeliness. You see, time is just a moment imbued with purpose. So if you understand the principles of leadership, you don't just get up one day to become a leader. It's a process. You have to cultivate the principles. Let me tell you, most of the people we look up to as leaders who are still making the wrong choices is because they did not cultivate the principles. When you cultivate principles, it becomes your character. You don't force yourself to do it. It becomes natural. Integrity becomes natural because you have cultivated that principle and it becomes your character. Time and timeliness. Time is simply a moment, a period imbued with purpose. When somebody does not respect time, there are two things. Either the person does not understand the purpose of the time, or the person assigns his own purpose to the time. So let's say somebody is going to, let me use the normal thing, going to church. If the person does not understand the purpose of the time of being there from 8 to, let's say, 10, then he's going to be late. Again, the person probably understands the purpose of the time, but has assigned his own time. He's coming in late because he has a new suit and he wants everybody to see. So he has assigned his own purpose to the time. So in order for us to be conscious of time and timeliness, first let us understand the purpose of that moment which has been imbued in time. If we understand the purpose is that we're supposed to be here from 10 to 2 to discuss some of these issues. We have given a purpose to that moment, 10 to 2. And you understand that purpose, you're going to be here at 10 o'clock. Don't assign your own purpose to time when you did not initiate the time in the first place. Thank you. Something, let us believe in Ghana. Let us also believe in Africa. Because our first president said the independence of Ghana is meaningless unless it is linked with the total liberation of the continent. So what we are doing here is not just about Ghana. We have Africa at heart. That is why it says Impact Africa Youth Leadership Summit 2018. 2019, we're looking at Nigeria. 2020, we're looking at South Africa. So we would need all the support we can get to push this agenda and to re-educate the youth about the concept of leadership. This part is very, very dear to my heart. Well, that's Anas's plaque, and since he's not here, so those of you who think we were using him as a decoy, we wouldn't have gone to the extent of getting him a plaque if we knew he wasn't going to show up. When we started thinking about putting this program together, we were thinking of speakers, and I said to my counterparts, I have been thinking that, one, we don't need speakers who are way away from the generation we have now. Two, I have known these gentlemen for over 25 years, and I know what they are made of. As a matter of fact, I've been following them on Facebook. We lost touch at a point, and I thank God for Facebook. I was able to get hold of them again, and I've been following them on Facebook, and I must say that I'm really proud of what they are doing now, because they are really contributing their quota to the development of this nation, and if possible, Africa. And we really want to appreciate that. And so I sent a message to Dr. Kojo Asante. I said, Doc, please, I know you are very busy, but we have this program, and we want you to be a speaker. He didn't hesitate. He said, I'll be there. He's not sure if he will be at the other two regions, but he said, for that in Accra, I'll be there. And like the moderator said, nobody charged us a penny, because I know how much this kind of speaking for 4 hours, you know, I know how much people charge for that, and they didn't speak about money, but they were here, and were here on time because they are passionate about what they are doing. So on behalf of Serto Afriwick, I want to give this to Dr. Sorry, Dr. Kojo Asante, for your dedication and your support for Impact Africa Youth Leadership Summit 2018. And like I said, I mean, these are very busy people. For them to be here for 4 hours, I'm even amazed. Dr. Lloyd Amoa, thank you so much for your support and for pouring out to us. I also want to thank our honorable director from the National Youth. You know, like Dr. Kojo Asante said, you hardly get people from these places to be part of a program like this. I mean, sometimes, for some reason, maybe they think, oh, this kids just want to get together. I'm too busy to be there. But he took the time to come over, and he did not just take the time to come. They were corresponding with our able programs manager, and it's been so amazing. We thank you very much for being part of this program. Anyway, it looks like I'm taking the time to do the ops manager's job by doing the vote of thanks, but I just want to personally take this time to thank these honorable people for being here, and also those from our embassies. It's been so amazing. Nigerian embassy, I mean, we can't talk about Ghana without talking about Nigeria. I mean, we are like buddies. So thank you so much for taking your time. Mr. Amagashi, Thank you so much for the time you've given to us. But I just want to say that this is just the beginning. We're about to spark something in this nation. Dr. Lloyd Amwa has a book. Is it back there? Okay. He has a book for sale. Unfortunately, he has to slash down the price. So if you really, one thing I always encourage young people, read, and read. Because at the end of the day, that is going to be your weapon. My book, I can't sell them. I am going to give copies to just a few people. I brought only 10 because South African Airlines wouldn't allow me to bring a whole bunch. So I brought only 10. We are working on publishing them here so we can get it to the public. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Nana Osei. I still posit that Ghana jollof is better than Nigeria jollof, right? Well, you may not agree with me, and that's why we are here. We are having an intelligent discourse, and we don't have to agree on everything. Before the vote of thanks, I have this here with me. It is another conference that is coming up from the Center for Critical Thinking and Resourceful Research in Africa, from the 4th to the 6th of November. Please, when did you say it was? Institute of African Studies. We will put this at the table so that you can take a look, and we hope, especially if you are a member of this campus, that you will attend. Let me at this juncture invite our secretary.
But if I may briefly, so this conference
Afriwic International Organization, Nana Osei Bonsu Jr. Thank you, boss, for the great work. And I also want to extend my profound gratitude to Dr. Kojo Asante, Director for Advocacy and Policy Engagement. Doctor, thank you so much. We are grateful. I also want to extend my gratitude to Dr. Lloyd Edu Amwa. Doctor, we are most grateful. And then the representative from the Youth and Sports Ministry, on behalf of Honorable Isaac Esiama, Mr. Emmanuel Asigri,